More information is not the solution, it is the problem. Are you feeling overwhelmed with the amount of information and tips out there to get off sugar? Does it seem like everywhere you look, someone is saying something different about how to actually heal from sugar addiction? Now, the truth is, we live in a world that is crazy saturated with information everywhere we look: the grocery store, movies, books, podcasts, summits, Google. Everywhere there is so much information. So, why then are we more confused than ever about what is good for our health and healing? Shouldn't we know what that is now because of all this information? Why are we actually stuck feeling like there's nothing that's working as we're trying to heal our relationship with food? Well, my friend, that's exactly what we're diving into in today's episode as I blow the lid off some tough truths about how seeking more information is actually holding you back from achieving your health goals, especially when it comes to breaking free from sugar. So, that is what we're diving in today. Stay tuned. You're going to love this episode. Now, before we actually dive into that, I do want to share with you, if you haven't heard the news yet, I have created a brand new version of my free live 3-day training that is called the Sugar Freedom Bootcamp. I've revamped the whole training. I haven't hosted this in over 2 years, and I'm so excited to be hosting it again this January. It kicks off January 21st. And the best part is it's free to join. So we're actually going to be diving in a little deeper into some of the things that I'm going to share with you today at this 3-day live event. So come and get your name on the registration list. Again, it's totally free to join, and it's going to be a jam-packed, incredible, powerful 3 days starting later this January. You can find the link below to come get your name on the registration list, get access to the replay videos and all the stuff. And it might seem a little strange sharing about this 3-day live workshop that I'm about to host while also talking about taking a break from information. So I'm going to pull this all full circle for you at the end of today's episode. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in to today's topic. Welcome to the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Dame, holistic nutrition coach and speaker. Let's dive in. Okay, welcome back to another episode here on the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. As most of you know, I am your hostess with the mostest, Danielle Dame, sugar freedom coach and somatic embodiment coach. And I'm so excited for another episode. This is a topic that I absolutely get just full of fun vibes as I'm about to talk about this because I'm so passionate about it. And I'm curious, actually, before we dive any deeper, have you ever thought any of these things? Perhaps I just need to find the right information or the right trick to get me off of sugar. Or I haven't found that right expert or the right program or that right book. And that's why I'm still stuck on the sugar roller coaster. Now, I'm going to point out very boldly to all of you, if you've had any thoughts similar to that around just needing more information in order to help you heal your relationship with sugar, I want to tell you right here and right now, you're looking in the wrong places. You're doing it wrong. This is a completely wrong misconception, thought, and belief that is actually keeping most women stuck on the sugar roller coaster. But why is this wrong? Why is it wrong to think this way? Why is it wrong to look for the next program, the next expert, or to feel like we just need that next hit of information in order to solve all of our problems with sugar? The solution to your struggles with sugar is never going to be found up here. So for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, I'm pointing at my head. And if you're listening on Apple, I'm pointing at my head. This is this common belief and misconception that the solution to our problems in life, yes, albeit our struggles and our addictive patterns with sugar, is to be found in mental knowledge or information. This is a belief that has been planted very young for all of us. And I'm going to share where this came from and why and all that stuff in just a minute. But I want you to understand that there's this mental aspect to seeking for the solution to our problems. But change, which I'm guessing all of you listening to this episode, there's something in your life that you want to change, albeit your relationship with sugar, maybe relationships with people, maybe your job. Change doesn't actually come from actually thinking about something. It comes from taking action on what we've learned. And I know for a fact, many of you are not doing that. And I'm lovingly uncovering this for all of you today so you can call yourself out on this. And I'm going to share later in this episode some powerful steps that you can take to shift out of information overload and into action taking mode. But I want to share a quick example if this doesn't quite make sense for you yet. So think about this, okay? Say you're a young woman and you haven't learned yet that sugar is bad for you, right? You have no idea that sugar is toxic for you. You're still eating it by the hordes and just thinking that because it's in the grocery store, it must be food and it must be good for me. Then one day you stumble upon perhaps a video or some amazing speaker who's sharing the details about how toxic sugar actually is for our body, what it does to our blood sugar regulation and our metabolism and weight gain and aging and all the things. And you start to finally learn and realize that sugar is toxic. Oh my goodness, you've just learned that sugar is toxic and you want to stop eating it. Now, the moment that you learned that, are you eating less sugar? Are you all of a sudden healthy? No, you haven't done anything yet. Yes, information can lead to change. It can lead to it, but the actual change happens when you take action. So in this example, if I'm this woman who just learned that sugar is toxic and I want to get it out of my body, I'm going to start taking some action steps, hopefully. I'm going to probably go and clear out my cupboards. I'm going to maybe learn to label read. I'm going to learn the different names that food manufacturers use for sugar. So when I'm shopping, I'm not buying products with sneaky sugars in them. I'm going to clean out my cupboard. I'm going to learn some new recipes. I'm going to really start diving into why I was eating so much sugar and possibly why it's so hard to get off of it. Right? These are action steps. That is vastly different than just soaking in information. So I want to really hit this home, like action, and not just any action, right? Because there's a lot of you out there who are just throwing darts at a wall with some of the things that you're attempting to do. For example, again, staying with this example, if you want to get off of sugar, going to the gym could be helpful for sure for your blood sugar and your physical body, but it's not going to be the full action step and solution to getting you off of sugar for good. There's so much more under the surface we need to look at. So action is the solution, not more information. But what kind of actions, right? And actually, how do we know what to do and what is the right action steps for us? And this is where it gets really tricky because many of us are so confused. Overwhelmed, confused. I started by talking about that today. And if you can relate to that, I'm going to share how we navigate through that. But first, the answers to these questions, and okay, Danny, I get that change in my life is not coming from more information. It's not coming from that next podcast. It's not even coming from listening to this podcast, right? But it's in the action steps that I take. In the first place, an important piece for you to understand is why we have such a drive as human beings to actually seek out information as the solution. Where did this first come from? As you know, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I'm not here to just share blanket tips with you, but to help you understand and become better at self-inquiry and inquiring into why a problem or a belief system or a habit or an addictive pattern exists in the first place. Because we first must understand why something exists before we can ever find a solution out of it. So same here. Why does this problem exist? Why are we such information seekers? Why do we feel like as a culture and as a society, more information is the solution? One of my theories, and I see this every time with my clients, one of the things that I see going on is that seeking out information, whether that's reading a ton of books, listening to all the podcasts, signing up for all the free summits, doing all the things, all the free stuff, it actually gives us a false sense of doing something or we're working on it. It gives our subconscious and our ego brain something to do so that we falsely feel like we're making progress. It's this really, really sneaky trick that our brain plays in helping us feel like we're doing something to work towards our goals, because doing nothing is not acceptable, right? We have to feel like we're making progress or we're being productive in some way. So reading all the books makes us feel productive, but it's not productive towards actual real change. It might be productive towards more mental knowledge and overwhelm and just your brain being so full it's going to explode, but it's not actually productive in helping you achieve that goal. The action steps are. So it really gives us, and I would be so curious to hear from all of you. If you're listening to this, come send me a message on social. Is this something that's coming up for you, right? It giving you this false sense of I'm working on it when you're not actually doing anything, right? You're not actually taking the action steps to help shift or implement. I mean, my hand is raised way up when I ask this question. How many of you have read a book or even listened to a talk and the speaker or the author gave you some action steps and you didn't do them? You're like, oh, that sounds good. I mean, I've been through so many really great books where at the end of every chapter, there was journal questions, there were action steps for me, and I just flipped to the next chapter. This was absolutely a pattern that I had. And I knew that this was that seeking of information and the resistance to doing. Another reason why we constantly seek out information is because we've been taught to do this. We've been taught by our parents, by the school systems, by the governments to use our heads to solve problems from a young age. We even think of being in school, right? We're taught how to cognitively solve problems, right? Whether it's in math class or in science, right? But we're not actually taught how to connect to the wisdom of our body. We're not actually taught how to listen to anything that's below our head, right? Our heart, our gut, all these signals and messages that our body shares with us as our version of truth. We're not taught how to actually listen to this source of knowledge, because this is another source of knowledge. Knowledge isn't just in the head. There's a major, and I would argue the most valuable knowledge that's actually stored in our body. We don't know how to do that. We've never been taught. So no wonder we're constantly looking to our mind to try to solve our problems. And of course, we have no idea how to trust our inner wisdom. We have no idea how to trust the knowledge that comes from our body. And that's actually what we're going to start talking about here as we shift gears. But I want to share a few more problems here that I see with this information, right? When we're constantly seeking out information, and I know lovingly that most of you listening to this episode, especially if you're still listening, struggle with this. This is a major problem and a major source of anxiety, overwhelm, stress, and inaction. I know for me, when I get overwhelmed, the first thing I do is nothing. The first thing I do is nothing, right? If there's too much, and this even shows up at the grocery store, right? There's like 20 different types of cereal, 20 different types of coconut oil, 20 different types of like everything. And there's so many options, right? And this actually feeds that part of our brain that gets overwhelmed and then tells us to just stop, right? So a lot of us aren't seeing progress or taking action because we're in information overwhelm, information freeze, right? We're in this freeze space where we don't know what's up, what's down, what's right, what's wrong. And it's better to just do nothing. Can you relate with that? Curious? So what's the problem with all of this, right? I've already shared a little bit, but some of the major things that I want to highlight here for all of you in this information seeking, in this old belief pattern of all I need is the next guru to teach me something. And that next podcast episode I listen to is going to solve all my problems, right? Or that next book. I know a lot of you are doing that, right? Buying all the health books, reading all the things, watching all the YouTube videos, which can be helpful. I'm not saying no information is necessary, but we have way outweighed the importance of that sense of knowledge and information. And in this process, what we've done is totally given our power away, completely disempowered ourselves, ultimately outsourcing our health, right? Whenever you look to my podcast or a book or the next summit for the answers to your problems, you're giving your power away. The minute you seek outside of yourself for any answer to any problem that you're having in your current life circumstance, you give your power away. And we have been doing this our whole lives, especially as women, constantly seeking outside of ourselves for some magic answer and some magic guru. And for any of you who have ever worked with me or been through my Break Free from Sugar program, you know that is absolutely opposite of what I teach and how I coach, because my truth is not your truth. And the true solution is actually within you. and we're gonna talk about this. So I don't want to get too far down that path right now. But I want you to know that there's some major problems here with this information, right? You're confused. You're overwhelmed. You're not taking action because you're confused and overwhelmed. You have no idea how to trust yourself or to trust what information is right. I'm using air quotes for those who are listening just to the audio version of this, right? What is right? We hear an expert telling us that we should eat a lot of sugar. And then we hear an expert that says we shouldn't eat any sugar. And like maple syrup is good and maple syrup is bad. And all of the conflicting opinions and advice. And at this point in our society, we have no idea what information is trustworthy and what information is not. And in that, we completely stop trusting ourselves. We start trying to figure out who to trust on what side of the conversation. And we have lost touch with not only our inner wisdom, but our ability to trust ourselves, to trust our inner voice, to trust that message that comes through. The other problem, the last thing that I want to point out here, and then we're going to get into some action steps that you can actually do to shift out of this. The last problem here is that it keeps us busy, right? So this is one of the main problems when we're constantly seeking information. One of the ways that we do that is by staying busy, right? We're always reading a book. We're always watching a video. We're always, whether even watching documentaries on Netflix, we're absorbing things. And by doing that, we actually prevent ourselves from having to be in stillness and in presence with ourselves. And when we do that, we have to feel what we need to feel. And we have to face the thoughts, emotions, pains, our body that might not be pleasant and we might not want to face. So there's this major problem when we're constantly seeking information outside of ourselves. We avoid having to feel, right? And that's actually the ego wants to do that. Our protectors want to do that. That's one of the addictive patterns that I see in my clients as we break down where we're numbing out and escaping. We take away sugar, we take away alcohol, maybe we take away social media, like some of these very addictive, we'll call them substances, like we start to then possibly distract ourselves with other things. And I was actually just having a conversation with someone on my Facebook page, a post I did the other day, who was mentioning all these things she was using to distract herself from her emotional eating pattern of comfort eating. Now, all the things she was distracting herself were really healthy. She was journaling, she was going to go for walks, she was going to go hang out with friends, but ultimately she's keeping herself busy to avoid having to feel and heal what's actually at the root of her cravings with sugar. So I'm hoping to support her through that. We've been chatting back and forth. But this busyness is another addiction. And this is one of the problems with that belief that we just need more information, is that we're going to constantly be in this cycle of soaking in more information and being busy doing that. And we're actually avoiding the real solution. We're avoiding the real problem because it's hard work. I'm not going to lie to you. Right? Taking action and actually looking at the root causes of your addictive patterns with sugar and actually having to heal your connection with your child self, your traumas, your nervous system programmings, your belief systems. Like, it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not sugarcoating it. It's not easy. And that's why we avoid it. We have a lot of resistance. We have a lot of protectors, a lot of blocks, a lot of things that I love helping my clients navigate through and push through so that we can get to the root of what's really going on, clear it out, and start fresh, right? And start this new empowered version of taking action and putting in the work to create real lasting change from the inside out. So how do you actually do this? Okay. So you understand now, hopefully, fingers crossed, that this information overload and information seeking pattern that you're in is not serving you, especially when it comes to healing your relationship with sugar. So how do we switch out of information overload and into taking action so we can finally achieve sugar freedom success, right? You can actually start to see those shifts. Now, before I share this list, I have 8 steps here that I want to share with you, 8 powerful resources and tools that you are going to put into practice right now to take action on shifting out of information overload and into taking action, right? This is your opportunity and invitation. But before I do, I just want to make one thing clear, because I can imagine a lot of you sitting there thinking now, well, Dani, are you saying don't ever learn? don't ever read a book? Don't ever listen to this podcast again? No, that is not at all what I'm saying. Of course, some knowledge and information is very helpful and very necessary, right? In the example I learned earlier, right? That young woman who was on this journey with sugar didn't know it was bad for her. She needed to learn how toxic it was for her body mentally in order to then start taking some steps to get it out of her body, right? And clear out her kitchen and all those things. So we do need some seeds planted. We do definitely need to involve the brain in some sort of conceptualization of a problem or processing of a problem. Like there's a lot of very helpful pieces that can be filtered through as knowledge or information from the head, but that is a small portion of it. And that's where we have it wrong. We're spending 99% of our time in our head and maybe 1% in our body if you're lucky. And it needs to be the other way around. So yes, we do need to learn. Learning can be helpful. And for each of us, it's going to call for a learning of a balance of like, when do I actually feel like I need some information to help me reach a goal or to make a change versus I already know what I need to do and I just need to do it. Right? How many of you have can relate to that sentence, right? You know what you need to do. You know what you need to do. You need to give up sugar. You need to clean it out of your house. You need to dive into your traumas and heal the root cause of what's really going on for you. We know this. You know you need to exercise more. You know you need to drink more water. But why aren't you doing it? There's blocks to action, right? And that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day and something that is a big, big, big pillar of what we do in the Break Free from Sugar program that I'm hosting in February, right? This deep dive into pushing through the resistance and understanding those blocks and starting to take the action. But for the purposes of this podcast episode, I want to share a couple action steps for all of you to take right now and start shifting yourself out of this need or this old belief pattern that you need to more information from outside of yourself in order to be successful in breaking free from sugar. Number one, I'm going to start right off the bat with the one that is probably going to trigger the most of you. And that's the point. That's the point because it's time to do something different. Something that I love encouraging my clients to do. If you resonate at all with being an information seeker, absolute step action item number one is to go on an information detox. Information detox before even going on a sugar detox or at the same time, even better, right? Giving yourself at least 2 to 4 weeks commitment to not soak in any more information. I remember I've shared this challenge with a few of my clients and the shocked look on their face when I told them you can't learn anything new for the next couple of weeks was just crazy. It was like I took away their favorite toy, right? And many of you might be having that reaction now, but this is number one, the best way that you are going to start tuning back in to your information, your knowledge, your truth, because ultimately that's the only truth that matters. And it's the only one you can ever trust is your own inner wisdom. And when we're constantly distracting ourselves with other people and information out there, it takes away from this connection with ourselves. So an information detox has many benefits. I'm not going to dive into all of those, but you can imagine taking a break from seeking information. So no news, no social media, no documentaries, no books, no podcasts, which is crazy because of course I want you to keep listening to my podcast, but I mean it, right? Like this is an important self-love tool on this path. If you want to break out of needing information every day and start listening to your own inner wisdom, you've got to take the detox. Number two is to get intentional after this detox with your consumption of content and knowledge. So being really intentional with how much you're absorbing, right? And how much time you're spending absorbing information versus how much time you're taking action on maybe some of those points that stood out to you, right? And even here, as I'm sharing in this episode, I'm sharing 8 tips here for you. You might take a couple of these and start taking action on them. And the others might not really resonate with you and you might just leave them to the side. And that's okay, right? This is for you to filter out what you need. We're all different, We all need different things. So being really intentional with, okay, I'm going to listen to one podcast episode a week, or there's this one thing that I really want to know more about so that I can get some tips and I can take some action steps. And then I'm going to actually do those action steps. Right. So really being intentional with why you're soaking in a certain knowledge or information. What are you hoping to get out of signing up for the next free summit? And is that actually going to move the needle for you? Number 3, as you go through this process, information detox, being intentional with your consumption and minimizing it to a point where you are only going through and seeking out information or reading books or podcasts when it's really necessary for mental knowledge. And number 3 is going to be then tuning into your body. This is a big process and a big part of the work that I do with my clients in the upcoming program. And actually, what I'm going to give all of you a teaser into in the upcoming Sugar Freedom Bootcamp, which again is free to join and you can register in the link in the show notes. We're going to be tuning into our bodies. We're going to actually be learning how to reconnect with the voice within that has all the answers. It's crazy. And I can't even believe I'm saying this. Years ago, I would have thought somebody who told me that was absolutely crazy, absolutely out there, woo woo, just out to lunch. But the more time I've actually spent in stillness with myself, the more that I absolutely know this to be true, that we have all the answers within. Again, you already know what to do. You know that you need to drink more water. You know that you need to move your body more. You know that you need to shut the TV off before you go to bed to get a good sleep. We know these things. Like, we don't need more information. You just need to actually do what you need to be doing, right? And this is our body. Like, your body knows. And especially when it comes to healing your relationship with sugar, your body knows what it needs to shed, to heal, to shift in order to get there. Okay, step number 4, action item number 4. All of these are action items. Is to then begin creating your sugar freedom roadmap to know what steps you need to take. So this is the piece where most people get tripped up because there is a lot of different paths to creating a healthy relationship with food and sugar. There's a lot of ways to do it. There's a lot of different angles and ways that various people, including myself, have achieved this healthy relationship with sugar. So for you, it's unique. And this is where your inner wisdom is going to tell you what that is, combined with the possibility of some guidance and some suggestions from outsiders for sure. But this roadmap is ultimately going to be your heart and your gut telling you what are the steps that you need to take. I'm willing to bet right now, even as you're listening to this, you know what one step you need to take in order to start healing your relationship with sugar. There's at least one thing that you know deep in when you listen, when you really listen, that you could be doing right now. And that's actually action step number 5, is to, once you've created your roadmap, what are the steps that you know you need to take? I need to learn a meal plan. I need to learn how to cook, right? I need to learn all the different names for sugar. Like, what are the steps for you wherever you are on this path and this journey? And choose top 3 action steps for you to focus on for the next month. What are the top 3 steps that you are going to take action on starting right now, starting listening to this podcast? But then for the next month, right now that you're information detoxing, you're focusing on taking action and no longer being lost in what other people think and other people's opinions and other people's beliefs, and having a chance to get true to what your beliefs are. What are those 3 steps? What are those 3 action items that you can start implementing now? And then number 6 is, once you've got clarity on this, you've got your roadmap, you're disengaging from other people's information so you can tune deeper into your own information, your body's information, is to set up some accountability and community here. This is really important for encouragement, for validation, for healing, especially if your goal is by chance healing your relationship with sugar. You definitely need to be in the right type of supportive and safe community. This involves non-judgmental. This is some community that is properly guided. This is a very, very important piece that I curate and in all that I do, and especially in my programs like the Break Free from Sugar program, is cultivating this sense of a safe container that most of us have never had as women, to be ourselves, to be vulnerable, to share emotions, to share pain, to share traumas. A lot of this stuff is really important as we start to navigate into some of the depths of our root causes. It's very important. We need the encouragement. We need that soft space to land and to know that we're not alone and we're not crazy. There's a big part of that is absolutely vital, especially as we're doing things differently. You might be starting to go rogue in your family and your community of friends, going off sugar, not soaking in so much information anymore, starting to tune more into your inner knowledge, your inner wisdom. And that might be really weird for those around you. So you must be in a community of people that get it and can lift you up on that journey. And then number 7 is feeling. Always feeling. This is the way that our information and knowledge that's stored deep in our body, the wisdom, this is how it's communicated to us, through feeling the sensations in our body, feeling emotions in our body, feeling our way through it. So as you switch out of information overload and into taking action, beginning to build a relationship with your feelings and feeling into what is right in your body and what is wrong. So what is a yes in your body and what is a no? This is a little sneak peek, something I'm actually going to teach all of you how to do in the upcoming Sugar Freedom Bootcamp. So we're going to do some exercises to help you tune into the energy of your body, and you're actually going to feel how your body responds to answers that are yes and things that are no. So this is how we can really navigate what is something we want to say yes to in our life and what are things that we want to say no to. And then lastly, adjust as necessary, right? The final action step for you here is to constantly reassess what is working for me, what is not working for me, right? What do I need more of? What maybe this action step that I've been taking for the last few weeks is not really working for me and I need to shift into another action item. So adjusting is so important because we can get so stuck in, well, I need to do this one thing to get off of sugar. I just need to hydrate and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life and it's going to solve all my problems, right? But we need to acknowledge that perhaps there's this time and space where we need to do more than just hydrating, right? There's probably more to it than just getting enough water every day, although that is absolutely going to help. But we need to be able to reflect and readjust and know when things are working and when they aren't working. And that involves being connected to our bodies. Ultimately, all of this is a journey back into your power and back into your body and the deep inner healing that's necessary to create this lasting peace with food and yourself. And I know that many of you listening have been on this quest for many, many years. And perhaps this episode has inspired you, right? To finally be ready to put down that information seeking, overwhelm mentality and belief system and finally create a different way of being and living with food. And if this is you at all, I really encourage you to come and join us in the upcoming Sugar Freedom Bootcamp that's kicking off January 21st. This is a 3-day amazing event. And there's many reasons why I have it spread out over a full week so that we can actually take action together. So this is not just a webinar, workshop, boring information overload adventure. What I'm curating for all of you and revamping completely since the last time I've hosted this workshop 2 years ago is actually some deep dive practices into tools and actually taking action together while we're live in creating a connection with that wisdom and reconnecting to your body through some fun activities and practices. I've already kind of teased a few of them that I talk about today. And I'm going to introduce you to even more in these 3 days. And between the workshops, you're going to have action items to implement. So this is really, I'm practicing what I preach here in everything that I share publicly, both in my Break Free from Sugar program and in the upcoming Sugar Freedom Bootcamp. Absolutely, the focus is action because I know deep down that you don't need more information. You might need some sort of guidelines to point you in the right direction. And I'm going to give you those in the upcoming boot camp. And then you're going to take action. And by the end of the week, you're going to feel completely different about your relationship with yourself, your emotions, and your relationship with sugar and food. And you're going to have absolute clarity on what your sugar freedom roadmap looks like. So these are my promises to you. And I sincerely hope that you come and join us. This is going to be an incredible week. I'm so excited. I'm putting some final touches on everything over the next coming weeks and really listening to all the input that I'm getting as women are joining. It's going to be just so fantastic. It's going to be absolutely fun. And you want to be there live. I know I've already gotten a lot of emails from women who aren't going to be able to be there live and want to catch the replays, which I will be sending out if you are registered. But of course, you want to be there live. I have some special bonuses and gifts that I'm actually giving away to everyone who is live with me on every call. So love rewarding women who really create that space for themselves to take the time to do the work. And that's what we're going to be doing together. We're going to be doing the work. I'm not just going to be bombarding you with more information because you don't need that. We're going to be doing the work together in a supportive community. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I hope that you'll be joining us. And thank you, of course, for tuning into another amazing episode here on the podcast. As always, if you love what I'm sharing on the podcast, it helps immensely if you take a minute to leave a 5-star review, either on Apple or iTunes. It really helps me reach more people and help hack the algorithm to get this episode and all my other episodes out to more women who really need to hear this. So thank you in advance if you've already left a review. If you haven't yet, and you could take a minute to do that right now, it would just absolutely mean the world to me. And of course, I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you're loving what we talked about today, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone you love. And if you're ready to dive deeper into discovering your root causes and patterns that are keeping you hooked on sugar, be sure to check out our brand new free workshop series that will help you kick emotional eating for good. Find the link to download this free series and other amazing resources in the show notes below.